After watching quite a few of Brian's videos, I now have an irrational fear of Noodler's Baystate Blue ink. Every time Brian mentions Baystate Blue in a video, it's because of an issue that the ink could cause with whatever he's demonstrating. The ink can stain, it's hard to clean, you have to use bleach to clean it out, don't mix it with other inks, etc. If Baystate Blue is so amazingly complicated, what are the properties of this ink that would make people want to use it despite its many complications? Fair enough, fair enough. And honestly, you know, I've talked about it, and I think that even taking this question again is sort of propagating an irrational fear, but I think the thing that stamps out fear is knowledge, right, and education. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit of education around Baystate Blue today. I'm even going to show you how I clean it out, because I've talked about it conceptually, but never really shown you. So I inked up a couple of pens. Now, granted, I only prepped these questions last night, so I inked up these pens earlier today, so they're not like uber super stained here. And in fact, I used a Noodler's Clear Ahab here, and it's not even staining at all at this point. It's just like sliding off the pen, and so I was a little bummed about that. You know, so I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna use a different pen material, different plastic, and see if I can get more of a stained effect. So this is gonna be somewhat demonstrative. That sounds weird. Somewhat demonstratable, but also keep in mind I've not had it in here for like months, so the longer you have the ink in here, the more potential there could be for staining and things like that. So anyway, with that in mind, so I have, you know, a couple different pens, and I'll show you why people like Baystate Blue. Honestly, the only reason that I know that anyone likes Baystate Blue is because of the vibrancy of the color. It's a blue that's very electric. It just pops. And I'll try to zoom in and give you a little bit of an idea. I don't know how much it'll really come across the page. Actually, you know, it doesn't match it's not too far off from my shirt. It's got a little bit of purple to it, but you can see there, so it's a little bit wet still. It does dry relatively quickly. It is pretty absorbent, so it'll feather a little bit on the page, especially when you flex it out like this. Like, this is on rhodia paper, and it's even getting a little bit of spread coming out here. It's not terrible, but it's, you know, this is on rhodia paper, which is some pretty good stuff. It's because I dumped it on and there's lots of flex. So it's the vibrancy. That's the reason people like it. It just pops off the page. It's not, you know, waterproof. It's not, you know, permanent or anything like that. It's just, it's an overall just a very vibrant blue that's difficult to get with pretty much any other blue color. Now, there's other ones that will come close, so I think there's some good alternatives out there. Jayarbon Eclat de Saphir is not too bad. There's a bunch of other ones. There's actually a bunch of blues that have come out recently, even with some of the new, like, Monteverde colors and Robert Oster's, and some of the newer brands that we've been kind of carrying and expanding into. There's some pretty decent, adequate substitutes here, but there's nothing that's just quite as vibrant as this Baystate Blue. And usually you have to use it and you have to kind of see it in person. It doesn't come across well in video here, and I know that. That's why I'm not spending a lot of time showing it to you. But you lose some of that vibrancy just because it cannot be replicated in digital form. But it is quite jumping off the page. So that said, the thing that's different about Baystate Blue is it is formulated very differently. It has a higher pH, and it says it right on the bottle, approximately 8 to 9 pH range. So it's a higher pH, and what happens, most other ink is either neutral or leans pretty acidic, and if you mix this with a conventional ink, a non-Baystate ink, it's not just the pH, there's other chemicals going on in there that affect it, but it's all proprietary, so I don't know what it is, but I know that if you do mix it, it can actually solidify and gel and foam up and do some kind of crazy reactions and stuff to conventional inks. In fact, I wonder if I could even make that happen. This is an experiment. I've literally never intentionally tried to make it happen, but I have a couple of inks here. I have Diamine Ancient Copper and Jayarbon Amber di Bermani. So I'm going to experiment and sacrifice a couple of different inks. So we'll see if over the course of this Q&A if I can get some kind of reaction to happen. But I'm going to take a little bit of Baystate Blue and I'm going to drop it into here. So I'm going to do a little bit of Ancient Copper. I hope I get some kind of crazy reaction. That'd be some good entertainment, wouldn't it? And then a little Jayarbon. There you go. So I did about a 50-50 ratio on the Jayarbon. Maybe I'll do a little bit more on the Ancient Copper. Okay, so we'll see what I can get going on there. But in general, you don't want to do what I'm doing right now. And then try to use it in your pen. It's got a good smell to it too. So I'm going to close it up. So we'll see what I can get going on there. Should be interesting. So I've got those two. I'll let them kind of brew a little bit. It'd be cool if I could get some kind of crazy reaction. That'd be kind of fun. Ooh, that looks gross. Ooh, that is already looking pretty weird. It's like getting kind of chunky. Oh yeah, okay. I'll zoom in on that in a second, but that is looking good already. I'm liking that reaction I'm getting. Yeah, maybe I can get something similar with ancient copper. Anywho, so I'll set those aside and revisit them in a hot second. But the thing about the Baystate Blue, so what I really wanted to do is ink up with these pens and show you how to actually clean it out. So I have a little demonstration for you today. So I have a jar of conventional household water. I have some Clorox splashless clean linen bleach with improved whitening, which is really important here. No, it's just conventional household bleach. I like the splashless kind because I have kids and I don't want to splash bleach over places where they could get. So I use that, but I don't think it particularly matters what type of bleach, just a conventional household bleach. So what I like to do when I am cleaning out my pen with Baystate Blue is I like to use a ratio of between 10 and 25% bleach and water. So, 75 to 90% water, 10 to 25%, whatever, depending on which ratio you use, somewhere around there, around a 10-to-1 solution, maybe a little bit more if it's really bad. I'll probably stick more to the 10-to-1 today. Depends on how aggressive you want to get cleaning with it. But that really is going to do it. Bleach is not inherently going to cause a lot of problems with your pens unless you're using a wood pen or you have certain other materials. You do some research on whatever your pen material is and see if bleach is going to be a problem. Generally speaking, it's not, unless you're going to soak it for a long time. That's generally not a great idea, but sometimes that's what you need to do to get the job done. But in this case, I'm actually going to dump out the excess Baystate Blue in my jar because I just filled it up this morning, and that's going to kind of a two-in-one question here. People ask, can you dump the ink back in your bottle? Yes, you can do that. Okay, it does have a distinct smell, which I actually really like. So what I have here now is some Baystate Blue inside my thing. So I'm going to just kind of wash it out, just like regular. Oh boy. I usually do this at my sink, so I hope I can be able to do this easily. Okay, I'm definitely going to get my fingers all blue. Can you see what I'm doing okay? Okay, that's good. So I will try to dump a little bit out. So what I'm doing now is I'm just cleaning out just the regular stuff, just the regular ink, so you can see if it's actually stained at all. And you can definitely see I've got kind of a blue tinge, which is good. I actually want that in this case, because I want to have a stained pen barrel to show you how to clean it, okay? So I'm gonna shake it out. Now if I was doing this at the sink, I would just be dumping this out and getting clean water. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm dumping it back into here, which is fine. You can do that too. So what I have going on here now is, okay, that's not bad. So I have a blue tinted ink barrel. See that? You see how blue that is? If I hold up against my shirt, you can see it's definitely got a tinge of blue. Okay, so you can rinse this out and rinse this out and rinse this out with water. It's not going to touch it. It's not going to change. What you need to do is you need to get some bleach. And now normally I would use clean water for this. It's got a little bit of blue to it, but I don't think that's going to cause a massive problem. Is it going to cause a problem? That's not a good question. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call an audible on myself here. I'm going to use just a small cup and just use some regular water. So now I have this jar that I prepared that is basically useless. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. What I'm going to do, again, normally at a sink, I'm going to take and I'm just going to use my cup of water here, and I'm going to fill it so much. And I'm just going to put a little bit of bleach in there to get that kind of 10-to-1 ratio going on. And then I'm going to immediately wipe it off my desk so I don't stain my desk. Okay, we're okay. As long as you catch it pretty quickly, it's not going to do too much harm. If you do it on bare wood, that's not a good problem to have. Okay, and then what I'm going to do to actually kind of control this a little bit better. Doing this on a wood desk is the least ideal of all solutions. So I literally have a solution here that has bleach and water. I'm just going to mix it up a little bit by kind of sucking it up into my syringe and getting it down. There's other ways that you can do it. Just a spoon. You can use probably the pen barrel itself, honestly. But just mixing it up so that the bleach and the water mix together nicely. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm just going to inject a little bit down into my pen barrel. Now, one thing I could do is I could just leave it kind of sitting here for a while. That's certainly a viable option. Set that aside. But I'm just going to cover it. If you're sensitive to bleach or anything, you know, by all means use gloves. I am only going to do this for a couple of seconds here. So, so you can shake it back and forth like this, get it moving in here. You can also, you know, just take and fill the whole thing and kind of set it aside for a little bit. That also helps. And in fact, I'm going to fill it a little bit more so that I get good contact. I hope I put enough bleach in here to actually show it in the demo. That was my biggest fear by doing this live demo, because I did not test this out a lot ahead of time. So you can do this, you can let it soak. If it's not getting it, you can put a little bit higher concentration of bleach in there. Again, I went on kind of the low end. And another thing that you can do to kind of accelerate it a little bit is you can use a Q-tip. And you can kind of go in here and just scrub it a little bit. And that is actually probably going to be the most helpful thing. You can see even there, I'm getting some blue on the Q-tip. Kind of swirl that around. And you can kind of scrub it out. So this is not something you're going to want to have to do on every single pen that you use. So what Nathan says at Noodlers, if you're using Baystate Blue, you know, is it's really best to just dedicate a pen to it. Because then you can clean it out, but it's not going to be necessarily a fun process because it takes a little while. Let me see how I'm doing here. Okay, still got a little bit of a blue tinge to it. Can you see that? A little bit there. But again, I've not cleaned this out very much. Can you see that compared to my white shirt? Can you see that? It's kind of picking up a little bit of the blue. Okay, maybe not the best visual demonstration, but I can still see a little bit of a blue tinge, but it's definitely gotten a whole heck of a lot better. I think if I, in fact, I'm going to leave this filled with this ink and kind of set it aside for just a few minutes and see if I can have it looking even better, maybe by the end of this Q&A. But that's basically the process. So it takes a second. You know, it's definitely not something you are used to having to do with most of your other pens. So it's really not so much something you should be afraid of. It's just kind of a pain. So if you're going to be switching Baystate Blue in between a lot of your different pens, it's really kind of annoying to do that. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go sticking it in every single one of your pens. In fact, now I can see that has gotten a whole heck of a lot clearer. It's not nearly as blue. I'll leave that sitting in there, but that's basically the process. It's nothing amazingly complicated. The thing I will say is if you're going to be soaking anything with bleach like this, you want to make sure that you're not doing anything where bleach is you know, going to cause it any harm. And stainless steel is one of those things where if bleach is on it for a prolonged period of time, it can actually corrode it a little bit. So you want to be careful, especially if you have a pen with a stainless steel nib. You want to remove the nib before you soak the pen for any length of time. I would say length of time being like, you know, 20-30 minutes or more. You know, it's okay to just wipe it or to flush it out with a bleach solution like this, but you're not going to want to leave it soaking in there, and you definitely don't want to use like straight bleach. That's going to be too intense. You want to dilute it quite a bit, and I think that you're going to be a-okay if you kind of stick to those rules. So that is my answer about Baystate Blue. I want to make sure I just hit everything here. But yeah, pretty much that's it. It's just a vibrant blue that's a little bit of a hassle to clean out. Now let's revisit the inks that mixed up here. So my Amber de Bermani, let me zoom in so you can see what it looks like. And in fact, I zoomed up a little, I rigged up a little rig. Thank you, Jenny, for helping me brainstorm this thing, but I have this little rig. Ta-da! So now when I zoom in, you can not see my teeth and my stubble. So if you're looking at my Amber de Bermani, you can see how like gritty and kind of chunky it's looking now. This is literally after like a few minutes inside here. So this is the kind of thing that is not good for fountain pens. Just imagine if that was inside your pen. It would not be very pretty. So Amber de Bermani and Baystate Blue is a fail. As far as ancient copper goes, trying to get a picture of it. I actually can't see the vial itself, but I'm looking at it behind this thing and looking at it in my monitor, but it's looking not great. Let me open this thing up. Oh, there's my mouth. Okay, get a closer look at this. Oh yeah, it's doing the same kind of thing. It's like this gritty, kind of chunky nastiness, and I think if I leave it in here even longer over time, it's going to kind of, it's probably going to get relatively solid over a period of time. In fact, I'm just going to leave it sitting like this and kind of experiment and see, but I can just tell right now that this doesn't look good. So, little experiment there. You do not want to mix it with your pen. So the moral of the story here is if you're going to use Baystate, it's really best to dedicate it to an individual pen. Something like a Platinum Preppy, or maybe, you know, something like that. Maybe not the Ahab because it puts down a little too much ink, but I think that's going to pretty much be what you're going to want to do. And then to kind of wrap up the question here, you know, I could leave that soaking even longer if I wanted to, but just to give you a little bit of an idea of how it cleans out. That's what happens when you do live demos. Everything takes a lot longer than you think it does. That's why we love editing. Because it can pass time and do all the boring stuff that you don't want to sit here and just listen to me say filler talk, but now you are, because this is Q&A and this is how we do it. All right, there we go. That actually looks quite good. I don't see a blue tinge to it. You know, I got just a tiny little hint of blue on the paper towel here when I put that in there, but I have now a clear barrel. So took us a little bit to get there. I probably could have used a stronger bleach solution, but even still, even with a relatively weak one, I now have a perfectly clear barrel. So even when you have a stained barrel, you can clean it out with the magic of bleach. All right,